Hello everyone and welcome to the Race Reaction Podcast, and today we're continuing our series of the what happened to X F1 driver, this F1 driver, today we're going to be talking about Adrian Sutil, who is a driver you may know from having driven for Force India or Spiker or Sauber. He's driven for a few teams, but he's one of those drivers that we think has been somewhat forgotten since he exited the sport. We've got a bit of a cheat sheet of info about him. Shout out to ChatGPT. But Adrian Sutil started in F1 for the Midland/Spiker team once it was rebranded in 2006. He scored 1 point for them in the 2007 season at the Japanese Grand Prix, which is impressive. He scored a P8 in a car that I only know not because it was fast, because it was orange, essentially. And then following that, in 2008, he moved to Force India, where he stayed until 2011. It underwent a transformation, essentially, from Spiker, the Dutch car manufacturer, to being bought out by Indian businessman Vijay Mallya, to then rebrand to Force India with his brand. I think he owned an airline as well, and
Kingfisher Airlines.
Some beer.
Yeah, as we covered extensively in our first episode of this mini-series. But anyways,
go and check that out.
Yeah.
So he was at Force India from 2008 to 2011, and then took a break in 2012 and came back in 2013 after a brief hiatus. And then in 2014, which would be his last Formula One season, he drove for Sauber. For that season, his highlight was probably, as you've seen, at Abu Dhabi, flipping, was it Nico Hülkenberg? I can't remember. Or was it?
No, it was at Bahrain.
Bahrain,
turn 1. I think it's Maldonado.
There you go.
You've seen it. If you haven't Googled it, because it is a very cool, well, not cool, but yeah, unique crash. Yeah.
So from what I remember, Sutil was coming. Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, he was coming out the pits. Came into turn 1, quite narrow, to the apex. And who is it you said again?
Maldonado. Yeah.
In his
Who else could it be?
Lotus.
Yeah.
Came around the outside from the left-hand side. Track took the racing line, and they came together. And Maldonado was sent. Literally, there's a shot actually from another angle where Sutil is on all four wheels. The right side up. And then just in front of him, literally 180 degrees upside down, is Pastor Maldonado. That was a bit of an odd crash. They were both fine, obviously. It was pre-Halo, but no one had their head blown up, squished like a grape by that crash. And then his last season was at Sauber in 2014. Didn't manage to achieve any points that year. Relatively disappointing final year of his F1 career, in a car that had no livery. Essentially, it was just grey all over, pretty much. I just remember it for having the Chelsea Football Club sponsorship, logo on the I guess I don't know what you'd call that part of the car, just in front of the steering wheel, basically the monocoque. I don't know. He had a relatively unsuccessful career, let's say, but he is known for a few incidents like the one I just mentioned. He had a bit of a coming together with, I can't remember who it was now, in 2009, I think, at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Can't remember who the other driver was.
I'm trying to think as well.
But there was that famous kind of post-race conference where they were sat next to each other and they had photos literally printed out as proof of, look, you steered into me. But if we look at Adrian's pre F1 career. He started out
Trulli.
in karting. Yeah, no, Trulli, that was it. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bit of a... Yeah, I think Trulli tried to overtake essentially off the track, past the runoff, on the grass almost, and then kind of swiped across the front of Sutil and took them both out. And there's a famous shot of them both standing, shouting at each other.
Yeah, didn't they push each other or something, or punch? Didn't Sutil punch someone?
There was a punch. There was a bit of a shove and a...
They
got in each other's faces and they were shouting at each other, but so he had his fair share of incidents and crashes, as many kind of forgotten drivers from around that time did. But anyway, as I was saying, just on to his early career before F1. He began in karting, as a lot of F1 drivers do, at a young age, and then moving on to single-seater. He competed in Formula BMW ADAC in Europe, and then the Formula 3 Euro Series. Finished runner-up, actually, in 2005, year before he started in Formula 1, so pretty decent result. And then in 2006, he won the championship in the Japanese Formula 3 Series. So it's not like he was a pay driver, as we've seen, recently with, say, Nikita Mazepin. So he wasn't that bad. But he had a relatively successful career leading up to Formula 1. And then once he got there, it just seemed like he didn't really gel all too well with it. But he did have his flashes of brilliance. He scored points on a semi-consistent basis, let's say. I've just got the chart of his points and so on here, although Wikipedia's decided it wants to be in German today. So maybe I can't read you off the results, but his first points came with Spiker in 2007, which was also the team's first points, if I'm correct. And then, scored a few more points over the next few years for Force India, which arguably had a faster car around that time as well. And that's where we saw the beginnings of also Nico Hülkenberg as well. So, Force India was one of those staple kind of midfield teams around that time. They scored semi-consistent points. They weren't exactly the, kick of the era. They were a bit better than that.
True.
There is a section on Adrian's wiki page, actually, about a notable incident where, and I'm sure you know about this, Manav, where following the 2011 Chinese Grand Prix, some of the drivers went to a nightclub to celebrate, I guess. Well, Adrian wouldn't have been celebrating anything because he didn't win or get a podium, but they went there anyway because they were good friends. He was good friends with Lewis Hamilton, actually, which not many people know, I don't think. But
should we come on to that theory later?
We can, yes.
Okay.
They went to a nightclub in Shanghai, and present also was the Lotus F1 team owner or co-owner Eric Lux, who I don't think is on the F1 scene anymore. But there was some kind of verbal... there were some words exchanged. They might have had a few drinks and words were exchanged. And it led to Sutil hitting Eric Lux in the neck with a champagne bottle. Which, and it doesn't actually say whether it was a smashed bottle, and he would have stabbed him, I suppose, or if it was just hit with a blunt object. But that led to Sutil being convicted of assault in 2012 or grievous bodily harm, and he was handed an 18-month suspended prison sentence as well as a €200,000 fine. So he didn't have the most glamorous off-track reputation, let's say. And then after he left Formula 1, it says here he maintained a relatively low public profile, which I can agree with because I don't think we've heard much of him since 2014. But he is a prolific collector of high performance cars. So there is actually, if I just pull up the list quickly, I was looking at it earlier. He does have a rather impressive collection of cars. So I'll list them off here. Koenigsegg Agera S, Koenigsegg CCXR, Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute, Koenigsegg Regera, Pagani Huayra, Pagani Zonda, wow. Ferrari 488 Pista Spider, Ferrari Enzo, Ferrari LaFerrari, Ferrari Monza SP1. He's got, he's had 5 Bugatti Veyron Supersports,
God.
a Bugatti Chiron, another Bugatti Chiron, a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren Stirling Moss, which is extremely rare and expensive, and then a McLaren Senna LM, which he apparently crashed in July of 2020 into a electricity pylon at the side of the road in, guess where, Monaco of all places. It was one of 35 made, so it was a fairly costly repair that took 2 years to complete.
Wow.
Obviously, with 35 cars in existence, including that one, there wouldn't have been spare parts at your local quick fit garage. So yes, it was an expensive repair, and he could obviously afford it. But he in short,
got a guest joining us.
He is a car enthusiast, and he's got quite the impressive list of cars there. Yeah, we've got a third guest today. There he is. Yeah, he's just been playing with a sock actually over there. So yeah, in terms of Adrian Sutil, for me, he's one of those drivers that I think he had his moments of brilliance, as many drivers do tend to, most of the time. Not all of them, has to be said. But he was at Force India for a good while. That's probably what most people know him for. That's what I remember him for, certainly, and probably be the same for you as well. And he's had a decent, relaxed post F1 career. You know, taking his time away from the sport and how intense we know it is. And he's collecting cars. He's living his dream life, which sounds great. I will let you bring up this theory that we've heard about Adrian Sutil.
No. Firstly, I want to say that I also like the fact that that Adrian actually wanted to become a pianist, and at a relatively young age, he was quite good at playing the piano, according to sources around the internet. I think it's quite interesting how you could go from playing the piano to, driving an F1 car. I guess it's interesting. I mean, Charles Leclerc does it. He does both at the same time.
Yep, true.
Not at once, but I think it's linked to this court case that you mentioned previously. But there is a theory, and this was when we were going through our F1 conspiracy theories episode, which we did, I want to say, like 2 years ago, pretty much. And one of the theories that popped up, I think we saw on Reddit, and Reddit isn't really,
It's not the most trustworthy source.
No. It's not exactly like an academic journal, but there is a theory that Adrian Sutil and Lewis Hamilton had a very close relationship, a romantic one. Now, I'm sure you all will know that Adrian Sutil has been married for some time. And I think he has kids. I'm not sure if he has kids, but he is. I remember a lot of people were saying that Adrian Sutil's girlfriend's, I think she's a model actually. I think she's a model. But anyways, that him and Lewis Hamilton were in a relationship and it was secret. And at the time of the inquiry into this nightclub incident, Lewis, who was present at the party, was ordered to testify, or give his witness statement. And I don't remember the exact story of how this happened, but do you remember how this thing goes on? Because I'm pretty sure it had to do with the fact that he didn't want Adrian to go to jail.
I think so. from memory, it was that Lewis was summoned to give an eyewitness statement, and it happened to coincide with the launch of the 2012 McLaren F1 car. Obviously, when Lewis was still at the team in his last year at McLaren with Jensen as a teammate. The court date coincided with the launch, and obviously with contractual obligations, Lewis had to attend the event. So that was his reason for not attending court, to I guess defend Adrian. It was known that they were good friends off the track. So there's this theory that Lewis kind of, he would have wanted to attend the event, obviously, but also he didn't want to go to court because there might have been other details that would have been uncovered about it, and Lewis's involvement in the incident, perhaps, that he didn't want to be there for, basically, and maybe him not being there would have prevented any of it coming out. So, it's I think around that time, Lewis, even recently, he's had this interview with GQ magazine, I think it was, where he said that he's now 40 years old, 41 years old almost. He's just joined Ferrari. He feels like he's got a new lease of life, this new burst of energy. He certainly looks younger, said he feels younger. And then he said something along the lines of that he's got no wife or children, and he's still 100% focused on racing, and his life goal is to just win. And I don't think he talks about it too often, but there has been that question over the years of whether or not Lewis Hamilton is in a relationship with someone, or he keeps it quite private, as a lot of the drivers do. We're not expecting them to share their whole lives with us, although they are all on social media now. He's just licking his foot. I'd usually be shouting at him to tell him to stop at this point, but
RSPCA would be on the phone too. Oh, he's just gone off screen. It's fine. Bless him.
Oh. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. There has been a lot of debate over the years about Lewis Hamilton's, let's say, preferences. Because of the way he dresses, I suppose, being a bit more, let's say, out there than what a lot of the other drivers wear to the track. They might just wear the team apparel or something like that. But Lewis he's into fashion. We saw it with Guan Yu Zhou as well. They like to make a bit of an effort and stand out with their what they wear to the track and stuff like that. So there have been debates over the years about Lewis Hamilton's sexuality, essentially, and around the time of this whole Adrian Sutil thing, that has fed into it too.
True, I think it's a forgotten bit of Lewis's thing. But I think Lewis is straight, but I think that type of conversation, obviously, the We Racers One initiative in sort of 2020, 2021. I guess Lewis kind of spoke about it, not from a personal point of view, but obviously the personal point of view came from the racism that he faced, and obviously that was going on back then with the Black Lives Matter movement. But I agree. It's interesting theory, but I think it stemmed from the fact that Eric Lux, the guy who Adrian Sutil hit, called him gay, and him and Lewis. Right. I don't know, but apparently Lewis was Sutil's early friend, and obviously Lewis being the the legend that he is, he obviously had loads of friends in the paddock. But anyways, that's just a very silly theory that we discovered fairly, all those years ago. But I guess also for me, Sutil's kind of one of those drivers where his career was kind of not that important, and did he really do much for the sport? Maybe not, in my opinion. Um, I mean, we recently spoke about Scott Speed. Um, I would say he probably had a bigger impact on F1 because of his, um, the way that F1 saw American drivers after that as a marketing opportunity. Um, you know, and I think Adrian Sutil being a German driver and not being that successful, I guess. Yeah, at that time where you had Schumi, you had you just came out the Schumacher era. You had Seb, you had Nico Rosberg. Then actually you did have Schumi come back again, and yeah, you had. I mean, there are other like middling German drivers like Timo Glock as well. Trying to think of another one. I mean, in that list you could put Nico Hulkenberg. As much as it hurts to say, someone who has no wins as well, and no podiums. So, yeah,
He's
but
not getting one this year. Let's be honest.
no. Look, this At the time we're recording this, the season hadn't even started yet. For all we could know, Kick Sauber could be 1 and 2 in the in the standings by the time
Stranger
this episode
things have
comes out.
happened at Melbourne.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. But yeah, I guess I don't know. We'll find out what Adrian Sutil does, and I'm sure we'll keep a close eye on him for the near future, wherever he is.
Maybe.
Hopefully, not crashing another McLaren.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Bye bye.